Ladies and gentlemen, the patch notes for the June 2023 update to World of Warships Legends are in, and this update, as I suspected it would be, is a big one. So I'm going to show you the patch notes that Wargaming sent to me as a community contributor. Keep in mind, as always, that this is kind of like a rough draft. And by the time these patch notes are published to the general public, you might see some changes. So I should have left a link to the final version of the patch notes in the description. But we're going to jump right into it because there is a lot to cover here. So, first up, the summer update is called Always Courageous, and we're ready to spend the summer on the waves, captains. Are you? Let's take a look at the plans for this update, including our exciting Independence Day collaborations. Oh, yes, very exciting. And for some festive gear, you can take a look at this code and enter that at wowslegends.com/code redeemer to receive 6 red, white, and blue camouflages. Anyway, first major point of the update is fleets, also known as clans. The wait is over. You can now create your own fleet or join an existing one to play with your friends, and as you play, you will earn oil, the special fleet resource, which can be spent on useful enhancements to increase your fleet size, reduce the cost of post battle maintenance, and more. You'll have chances to acquire select prizes, such as Big Spring crates, and we will be taking a closer look. Well, we won't, because I'll be streaming on the day the Fleet article is released, but Wargaming is going to release a Fleet article on Friday, June 16th, so maybe we'll talk about that a little bit if I am streaming at the time. In any case, it sounds like fleets are going to work the same way as clans do on PC. And being a member of a clan on PC, I can tell you that this oil currency, basically what it's used for, is to upgrade, like, I don't know what you would even call them, buildings in your clan base or your fleet base. So, like dry docks and stuff, you basically upgrade those buildings, and those give you bonuses. On PC, I've got bonuses to the price of tech tree ships. I've got reductions on those prices for being a member of a clan. I've got increases to the amount of free XP that I earn. And there's all kinds of goodies like that. So it'll be good to join a clan, especially one with a lot of resources, just in order to get those discounts. It's nice to see that it's going to work the same way as it does on PC. And then, of course, this update is going to fall on the American Independence Day, or the 4th of July. So there's a couple American themed things that are coming. The first is Independium. Interesting name, but that's the event currency for the update, which you can get by proceeding through the campaign, random bundles, and by completing some sort of special mission. The rewards are going to include the upcoming Popeye collaboration, the Semper Fortis collection crates, Stars and Stripes random bundles, and more. So, 2 new random bundles will be available in this update. One is centered around the Tier 7 Premium American Cruiser San Diego, and the other is for drops of Stars and Stripes permanent camouflage for various high tier American ships like Des Moines and Minnesota. The Liberty Calls bundle, which apparently gives you the San Diego, is available for doubloons, while the Stars and Stripes can be purchased with Independium. What a name. Semper Fortis collection is also part of this, and this is one of those card collections like the Mikasa one. If you complete it, you get the Lady Liberty Commander guys with unique voiceover, and the guys can be applied to American and French non-collaboration commanders. They're also updating the port for Independence Day. That'll be the New York port. Then, as we already mentioned, there is an upcoming collaboration with the Popeye IP, and you can get 2 new commander guises with voiceovers for USN ships. Popeye the Sailor Man and Bluto the Terrible, along with their flags, of course, a spinach patch, and a very special spinacher skin for the battleship Colorado. Oh, that'll probably be green, I suppose. Very green and leafy. Sounds like my kind of camo. Anyway, moving on. Always courageous campaign. We've got another piece of U.S. Navy content, as you might have suspected. The Tier 8 cruiser Tulsa is arriving in Legends with accurate and rapidly reloading guns, a powerful radar, and good concealment. The campaign mechanics are still staying the same. The Admiralty backing needs to be purchased, and there's 100 milestones over 5 weeks. These, along with the Tulsa, are all the rewards you can get for completing the campaign. And then also coming this season is a new season of Brawl. Apparently, this is going to last for the entire update until July 24th, and it's open to all players with account levels 6 or higher, featuring any Tier 3 to Tier 7 ship, which means basically anybody can participate in this Brawl season and rack up whatever the rewards are. No news on that, but please note this is apparently an experimental version of Brawl. Then we've got a new Stellar Clash. Starting on June 26th, the update is bringing back the Stellar Clash event content. The revamped container will drop 3 new skins for Minotaur, Hakuryu, and Republic, along with other themed items such as commanders and goods. I believe these are the space camos, so I will be very, very interested to see what Space Minnow and Space Republic looks like. There's a couple upcoming improvements for the mobile version of Legends, optimization improvements, ship exploration and redesigned purchase buttons, and preset hints. Then the Italian destroyer line, which came into early access in the previous update, is now going to be fully researchable, including the Tier 8 Adriatico, which hopefully we'll be able to get as soon as the update drops. And now, something to do with balance changes and the debut of legendary modifications. So both epic and legendary modifications are both going to be available in this update. And now your 4th slot modifications can be upgraded into epic and legendary versions using steel. Normal modifications can be upgraded to epic for 500 steel, and epic modifications, epic modifications can be further upgraded to legendary for 2000 steel. To upgrade a modification, you'll first have to install it onto your ship, and then you can decide to upgrade it. So that is potentially actually a useful thing to spend steel currency on. I probably will do that, but speaking of steel currency, well, actually, we'll get to that later. Let's take a look at what these modifications can actually do. Oh, and by the way, it will now only cost 25 doubloons to dismount any modification, including epic or legendary modifications, and you can sell them for large amounts of credits if you don't want to dismount them with doubloons. In any case, we already know what the epic modifications for all of these things do, but for the gunfire control system, the legendary modification will grant you 5% bonus to main battery damage per stack, and I think Prince Blip confirmed earlier today to the community contributors that these legendary modifications cap out at 5 stacks. So theoretically, you can add on plus 25% damage to your main battery if you stack this particular one 5 times. I don't know how feasible that will be, but potentially that's pretty spicy, maybe even overpowered. Who knows? Artillery Plotting Room is also going to give you a 5% bonus to main battery damage per stack. The main battery module 3 is going to... Actually, this does not even look right. It says main battery module 3 and it talks about torpedoes. That doesn't sound like the torpedo modification. Interesting. In any case, I'll be looking forward to these legendary mods. They should add some spice to the ships. Then we've got the new ships from the update. Of course, the Tier 8 Premium American Cruiser Salem, which is an all new American cruiser. I believe it's basically a copy of the Des Moines, but it's got a super heel. At least that's what it is on PC. Doesn't actually say whether it does have the super heel, but it does have the high rate of fire and improved penetration angles for the AP shells, as well as sonar and radar. And it's going to be a steel ship, so a Tier 8 steel premium cruiser. In addition, the USN Battleship Missouri, which has been in the forge for a long time now, is being reduced in price from 30,000 steel to 17,500. Any players that bought the Missouri starting from May 15th of this year will automatically receive compensation in steel equal to the difference between the old and new price. But if you bought the Missouri at 30K before May 15th, 2023, unfortunately, I guess you are out of luck. No refunds for those players. But next, we have Tier 7 American Premium Cruiser San Diego, which I think we've already talked about. The San Diego comes with SAP shells. Oh, right. I believe this was the Tier 8 SAP Atlanta from PC. And it's got main battery reload booster. Interesting. On PC, I'm pretty sure this ship and the Austin have infinite charges of the main battery reload booster consumable. I don't know if that will be the case on Legends, but I believe that's how it works on PC. That remains to be seen. Should be interesting. And then some former campaign ships are coming back for purchase by Global XP. Those are the French battleship République and the German destroyer ZF6, both of which are fantastic. If you don't have them, I would highly recommend either one of them for Global XP. They're both great ships. Then there's some bug fixes, but the only one that I think is really of note is they fixed the issue with the binocular view that impacted the leading of targets when playing Napoli, similar to the Smolensk fix that they did a few weeks or days ago. So those of you who have the Napoli and were aware of the bug, that should be fixed with the update. And that's pretty much all there is to this update, so it's a pretty meaty one. Lots of new premium ships, especially cruisers. I expected there'd be a ton of premium battleships, but instead it looks like we're all getting premium American cruisers, which is certainly not a bad thing. Maybe that'll mean more people are playing cruisers. But we also have the balance article, so let's go over that too before we end this video, because there are a lot of changes to the Italian battleships. The Italian battleships have never been a very popular line, which doesn't surprise me because, frankly, I don't think they're that good. But there are plenty of captains who swear by these ships because they are masochists. Just kidding. In any case, all the Italian battleships are getting some buffs. Generally speaking, the secondary battery firing range is being increased. Visibility while firing inside of smoke is being reduced. The HP for most of the Italian battleships is also being reduced, so that's a nerf. The damage output from the main battery and secondary batteries is being reduced, and the main battery AP ricochet angles are being improved for Tier 5 and higher Italian battleships. I don't think it'd take too much time to cover literally every single balance change to these Italian battleships, so we'll just scroll through them until we get to the Caracciolo, and I want to focus on the big improvements here. Caracciolo's base secondary range is being improved by 0.5 kilometer, and the AP shell ricochet angles are being pretty significantly improved. The improvements get better as we go up to the tiers. The Veneto, which only had a 5 km range for its secondaries at base, is going up to 5.75. AP ricochet angles are being increased. Of course, you can see the nerfs here to the main battery AP shell damage and HE shell damage, as well as nerfs to the reload times of the secondaries, which for things like the Veneto and especially the Lepanto, that doesn't, well, actually, bizarrely, apparently they are not increasing the reload time on the secondaries for the Lepanto. Instead, they are just buffing the base range from 6 to 6.25 km. They are nerfing the main battery shell damage, but nothing on increasing the reload time for the secondaries. That's a little strange to me. I didn't really think the Veneto and the other Italian battleship secondary reload time was too crazy. Lepanto's certainly was, but I guess that's fine. So, in any case, the Italian battleships might get a little bit more spicy. I suspect they'll be a little bit more useful, at least in terms of secondary battleships, after these buffs are imposed. But of course, these nerfs, well, they're not the end of the world, I don't think. That is a significant nerf, though, to the main battery damage. It's losing a whole 1,000, so 12 to 11k kind of makes them a little bit anemic. But if the secondaries and the AP angles make up for that, all in all, this I think is overall probably a good balance change. Marco Polo, likewise, is getting a balance change. Main battery firing range is being increased, which is good because it had pretty short range. Then the Italian commanders are also getting reworked. The base guy, Inigo Campione, has his base trait improved from a maximum of 4 to 5% damage reduction from shells, torps, and bombs. Paolo di Revel, the brawler commander, his base trait is actually being nerfed. It's only going to give you a maximum of 5.5% reduction in main battery reload time. And the Artisan's Touch skill is being reworked here. The battleship is going to deal more damage uh, from Citadel hits, but it's going to not have as much of a penetration buff. And the battleship fuse time is going to be increased by 10%. I don't think this is a skill you're going to want to use even after the rework. That sounds not great to me. The cruiser commanders are getting some changes too. Mimbelli, who is a fantastic commander, is having his excellent base trait nerfed. It's going from 6% to 5.5% reduction in cruiser main battery reload time. And then the I'm Not Insane skill has been replaced with Behind the Curtain, which is a new skill that reduces ship detectability when firing in smoke, reduces incoming damage from shells, torps, and bombs while the ship is in smoke, and increases smokescreen dispersion. Smoke on the water has also been added as a fourth skill. Very interesting. I'll be very interested in using Mimbelli on the Italian cruisers after this change has put through. Then, of course, we've got Sansonetti and the subtle manipulation skill that was originally intended to mimic sap shells. Well, that's being updated because A, it didn't really do a good job of mimicking sap shells at all, and B, I think it kind of sucked. So now it's going to increase cruiser main battery sap shell damage by a percentage and increase incoming fire dispersion. It's no longer going to reduce shell grouping, and it's no longer going to reduce fuse time. This actually might be a pretty good thing to use on Sansonetti. Fugosi, who I believe is the torpedo focused commander, is having his Squid Ink unique skill improved. It's going to increase the smokescreen dispersion time. And Rizzo over here, I think he's the gun focused Italian destroyer commander. His unique skill, Swordfish, is also being improved. It's going to increase destroyer sap damage. It's going to increase torpedo damage and increase engine boost duration, which I think, yeah, this guy is still going to remain my commander for the Italian destroyers for sure. And then there is a global skill change to the battleship skill called On Second Thought. It's receiving an improvement to make it more desirable to the firefighter skill in the third row of skills. It's going to reduce the main battery reload time. Although, honestly, I think the firefighter skill is still going to be more valuable to that because I think for battleships, survivability is more valuable than DPM, which is already low because of the slow reload time to begin with. Then there's going to be some balance changes, some of which I found amusing. The Northern Dragon, which is, well, a copy of the Akazuki, except its HE can't damage any destroyers. It's getting some buffs to its torpedo reload time, getting some buffs to its concealment. I don't really think that's necessarily going to help. And bizarrely, after all these years, the Tier 2 American cruiser St. Louis is actually getting a nerf because apparently it's a bit of a monster at Tier 2. The HP is being reduced. So I find that amusing, honestly. Pensacola and New Orleans, in contrast, are both getting significant buffs. The reload time on both of them is being reduced. The rudder shift time on Pensacola is being reduced, and the turret traverse speed on New Orleans is being improved, as well as the hull plating is actually being changed from 16/19 millimeters to 25, which is actually a fairly big buff to the New Orleans. That should actually improve its survivability quite a bit. Other low tier changes. Apparently, the Danae, which blows up too fast, needs some extra HP, so it's getting that. The Emerald is getting a buff to the rudder shift. The low, I think this is a tier 4 German destroyer, is getting extra HP, the T-22. The Geta is actually getting nerfed for its HP, tier 5 German destroyer. The Z-23 is having a buff to its main battery reload time and torpedo reload time. The Z-46 also gets a buff to its rudder shift and torpedo reload. And the Pan-Asian cruisers are apparently getting some buffs. Apparently they were a pleasant surprise for many captains who enjoyed them, but their performance, I guess, leaves some room to be desired. So the Chumphon, Harbin, and Sejong are all getting buffs to the main battery reload time. They're all getting more HP as well. So that should be interesting. I think the Sejong, from what I've seen, I don't have the ship yet, but I doubt it really needed this buff. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section, but we're essentially at the end of the balance changes now. Apparently, the Duke of York and the King George, if you remember a couple updates ago, they had their armor models redone, so their citadels, instead of sitting under the water, were actually raised, and they became a lot more hittable. So these ships became a lot more destructible with more vulnerable citadels. Well, now, apparently, that change is being reversed. The ship's citadel locations are being put back to their original places while keeping the updated turret models. So, once again, they're going to have underwater citadels that you can't really hit, which ultimately I don't think that's a make or break thing for the game or those ships, but it is kind of frustrating when you shoot at a King George and you literally cannot hit its citadel because it's underwater, but whatever. And there's some minor changes to armor models for some of these ships, which it says you shouldn't notice any difference in gameplay. We'll have to see because the Wooster in particular has some pretty stupid 32 millimeter bow and stern plating, and any changes to the armor model that affect that, well, they very well may affect gameplay. We'll have to take a look at the armor viewer when the update drops. But as far as the coverage goes, that's all there is to it. So I hope you found this video informative. If so, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.